Today, we are going to be comparing the top business schools in the UK, and to do this, we're going to more or less compare all the MSc Finance degrees from the top 4 business schools. Let's get started. And I'm going to more or less compare these 4 top business schools: Oxford, Cambridge, LSE, and Bayes Business School. And I'm comparing these 4 because Oxford and Cambridge are the top schools in the UK in general, and LSE and Bayes are more or less specialist business schools. So which one should you go to? A master's can be really helpful, but the school you go to also makes an impact. In this table, I've more or less put what the tuition cost is, average living expenses, the total cost of actually going to that business school, entry requirements, course selection, meaning what courses can you actually do if you join that business school, how good are they important, are they any relevant, the teaching for the school, barriers to entry, the brand name, and also employability. At the end of this, I'm going to tell you what is the best business school and what gives the most bang for your buck. Let's start off with Oxford, and I'm going to go straight to the Oxford University website. I'm going to look for MSc in Finance degrees, and from what I can see, there's only one real MSc Finance degree, and it's MSc in Financial Economics, which is a finance degree, but also some economics in there. And from what you'll see on Oxford, it's not trying to brand itself as a business school. It's a generalist school where you can do medicine, law, business, human resources. You can more or less do everything. So why should you pick Oxford? The first reason could be the brand name. Of course, that's the main reason why people pick Oxford. Also, the alumni network. Being able to network with people that went to Oxford who end up as hedge fund managers, MPs, traders, CEOs is also a good thing. Now, from looking at the Oxford website, and of course, the standard of teaching is quite high. It's Oxford. They have the best lecturers in the country. Now, if we look at the fees are actually very crazy. For the MSc Financial Economics degree, the fees are 55k in tuition. 55k. Do you have 55k lying around for a master's? Probably not. Living expenses will be around 20k. And now, for such a large amount of money, you would think the modules you get to pick from should be the best. However, this is not the case. For each of these business schools, I've more or less gone through all the modules, and as you can see, in my opinion, the Oxford modules, they're not that much and they're not very comprehensive. In your first year, you do 5 core modules: asset pricing, corporate finance, economics, financial econometrics. But in your last term, when you get to pick from different elective modules, there's not a lot to pick from. There are more like maybe 15 modules here, whereas when you compare other business schools, which we'll do, you see you have a lot to pick from. And it's fine if you don't have a lot to pick from if there are more than one finance degree, but with just one major finance degree, this is definitely not a good look. If we then move on to Cambridge, why would someone pick Cambridge? Again, brand name, the teaching, alumni network. But what I would say Cambridge has over Oxford is there's more than one finance degree. So for Cambridge, there's an MSc in Finance degree, and also the course selection is a lot better than Oxford. On paper, if I had to choose between Oxford and Cambridge, I would choose Cambridge all day. So if you look at the courses for Cambridge, in your first term, you have a lot of core courses. So you have introduction to finance, financial markets, principles of finance, financial reporting. And what I want to focus on more is if you look at the Easter term, look at the amount of modules you can choose from, and not just the amount, because this is quite similar to Oxford's amount. It's the kind of modules. You can pick advanced credit, blockchain and digital assets, infrastructural finance, sustainable finance. There's more or less a more range of topics and modules you can cover, which I think gives Cambridge the nudge. And then when you come on to fees, similar to Oxford, to go to Cambridge and do an MSc in Finance, you're going to spend 55k. This money is crazy. 55k, and the living expenses will be around 18k, so quite similar to Oxford. So for both of them, you're going to pay around 75k. Obviously, if that's the case, you pick university where you can learn a lot more and where there are more module options. Now, let's go on to LSE, which is most people's favorites. LSE is a specialized business school, meaning there are loads of business degrees to choose from. There's MSc in accounting, there's MSc in data science, MSc economics, MSc in finance and private equity. There are loads of different courses to choose from. And if you look at the MSc in Finance degree, there's so many different elective modules you can pick from. Like literally this list is not ending, which just goes to show that when you go to specialized business degree, you can really decide and tailor your experience to what you want to work in afterwards. If you go to work in asset management, you can take asset management modules. If you go to work in hedge funds, you can do the same thing and take hedge fund modules. Being a top business school gives you that option, which is why I prefer this over Oxford or Cambridge every single day. Also for LSE, I'll say the brand name is quite good. It's not as good as Oxford or Cambridge, but I would say still, if you go around the world, people still know LSE. Now in terms of the cost, it costs less to go to LSE than Oxford and Cambridge. Going to LSE will cost you 45k for tuition, and then living expenses, it's in London, which is quite expensive, will be around 32k. So the total cost for going to LSE would actually exceed Oxford and Cambridge, which might put some people off because it's London. But trust me, the amount of modules you get, and also it's a specialized business school, you're gonna learn from the best in the business. So I think LSE would be a good option. Now the last business school I'll talk about is Bayes Business School. Now Bayes Business School is similar to LSE, where it's a specialized business school with a lot of different courses you can choose from. You can pick MSc in Banking and Finance, MSc in Accounting, MSc in Risk and Investment, MSc in Investment Management. So more or less, if you know already what area in finance you want to go into, you can more or less study that for your MSc, which makes it really stand out like LSE. Another pro again is the amount of modules you can pick from. If you go to Bayes, more or less you can do a private equity module, hedge fund module, asset pricing module, FX module, trading and market microstructure module. There are loads of different modules you can pick from that are from different areas in finance, which I think actually gives you a better offering than LSE. In terms of the brand name, it's not well known from people outside the UK or outside the US. People in Philippines or in Nigeria don't know what Bayes Business School is, but if you're in Europe, if you're in the US, if you're in any developed country, you will know that Bayes Business School is a top school, and that's reflected in the tuition cost. The tuition cost for Bayes Business School is 34k. It's the lowest of all the top schools, compared to LSE at 45 and Oxford and Cambridge at 55. So it just goes to show that you're really paying for the brand name with the top business schools. Obviously, living expenses will be similar to LSE, and that'll be around 32k, which obviously you can reduce if you live at home. So the total cost for going to Bayes Business School will be 66k, which is the lowest out of all the top schools I've considered. Now let's summarize everything. In this table, I've more or less put everything summarized. So as you can see, total cost is the lowest for Bayes Business School at 66k. LSE is the highest at 76k. And both Oxford and Cambridge at 73k. Entry requirements for all of them are a 2-1, which is quite common for most masters. For most masters, you will need a 2-1 in a degree you studied. I've not really seen a master's where you actually need a first class, which will be quite shocking. But when it comes to barriers to entry, it's actually quite high for Oxford and Cambridge. To enter Oxford and Cambridge, you must do an interview most times, must have a very good personal statement. Just having a 2-1 is really not enough to get into Oxford and Cambridge. And also similar to LSE, the barriers to entry are medium to high. They're not as high as Oxford and Cambridge, but it's still high. And Bayes has the lowest barrier to entry of all the schools. When it comes to course selection, Oxford I've given a 2 out of 5, which is quite poor. Cambridge a 3, and LSE and Bayes I've given a 4.5 because LSE and Bayes, you have a load of different modules to pick from different parts in finance. For Oxford, we saw was quite narrow, and for Cambridge, that was an improvement on Oxford, but not as good as LSE or Bayes. When it comes to teaching, I put a 3 for all of them because, to be honest, the teaching is just the same. The same lecturers rotate across all the big universities. Also for masters, there's a lot of guest lecturers, so in my opinion, it's not really a differentiating factor what the teaching is. Now for brand name, I've given Oxford and Cambridge both 5 because they're the best schools in the UK. That brand is well known everywhere, even in the effing grave. Like, everyone knows what Oxford and Cambridge are. LSE I've given a 4.5 because most people in finance, or everyone in finance, knows LSE. A lot of people in the world know it. And for Bayes, I've given a 3.5 because if you're in finance and banking, you will know Bayes Business School, but if you're not, you probably won't know it. So it is what it is. When it comes to employability, I find it hard to rate this section because I actually think it's a load of BS. I don't think university you went to really determines if you're employable or not. I just think it's a correlation, not a causation. So for this, I've given Oxford, Cambridge, LSE a 5 and Bayes Business School a 4 because I think employability in the actual sense might be lower if you went to Bayes Business School. Now, what school should you pick? Based on the total scores, LSE scores the highest at 17 versus 15 for Bayes, 15 for Oxford, and 16 for Cambridge. So LSE is clearly the best school here. I've also applied some upgrades or modifiers. Now for LSE and Bayes, I've given a 1 score upgrade because they're both located in London. And by them being in London, you're able to actually network with people from the industry a lot better because most banks are in London. They're in Canary Wharf, they're in the city. It's easier for you to go to speaker events. It's also easier for speakers to come to your school because they can go during the lunchtime at work. So in my opinion, that's definitely a selling factor. Having the school in London definitely helps because also Also, if you're a stalker, you can find the bar to go to and go network with people. People do it, trust me. People find the bars that MDs go to and go stalk them and try and get a job from them. So being in London is definitely a positive. And also giving Bays a second upgrade for having a lower total cost. If you look at the total cost, Bays is 66k compared to 76k for LSE and 73k for Oxford and Cambridge. That's more or less 10k lower. I think it deserves an upgrade. And now the final score still shows that the best business school in the UK is hands down LSE. Like hands down. LSE is the best business school in the UK. Bays and Cambridge come in a second, and Oxford, in my opinion, out of the top business schools, is the last one you want to go to. If you're enjoying the video so far, please drop a like and leave a comment. It goes a long way. Now overall, these fees are quite high. Even though Bays is the lowest, it's still 66k. It's still 34k for tuition. Now, if you have the money and you're able to pay 34k or 55k for a master's, then obviously go do that. If that money is available from you or your parents and they're willing to pay outright cash, then so be it. Or if you want to do a master's and you want to get a student loan, now really think about it. Is it worth going in debt to do a master's? Is it worth getting an extra 65k just to do a master's? If you're doing a master's because you want to get a full-time job in banking and you think over the long run, if you get that job, you'll be able to pay it off, then yeah, that's the case. Or what happens if you don't get that full-time job in banking? Or what if you get a full-time job and it's in tax or audit? Would that decision be worth it? I don't know. I can't make that for you, but I want you guys to really think about it. I know having a master's seems like it will make you get that dream job. Again, the master's only helps if you can land an interview and show that master's knowledge. If you can't, then it doesn't really matter. Most people think if you have Cambridge or Oxford or LSE on your CV, they're more likely to interview you, and this is not really the case. I promise you, just because it's Oxford on your CV or Harvard or Yale doesn't mean they're more likely to interview you. I promise you, it doesn't really matter, because what matters is being able to do the job. How smart you are is kind of irrelevant if you can't do the job, and most employers know this now. In the past before, yes, it would have definitely helped, but right now, just get the job done. If you're smart, you can do the job. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, hope you guys found that video useful. If you did, please drop a comment down below what business skills you think are quite good, and I'll cover them as well. Like the video, share to your friends, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good day.